Today we're going to go over some patch notes. A new update just dropped. Not a huge one or anything, but some good quality of life changes, some slightly more controversial changes. But all in all, I think it was a good update, and I just wanted to go over these changes. We're going to play through some random spells games. Well, I talk about each one of them, and I'm just going to go through the main additions and changes that were made. So to start, I've got a little list here. First change on the list is Barrage of Bones no longer clips into players or minions. I think this is a good change overall. I would give it pretty much an A grade because I don't know if you guys use bones much, but when you use bones, it part of the bone goes into the player, it would go inside my head there if it was used on me, and then you're just stuck. You can't even shuffle at all. You know how when you're trapped by a player, you can move around a little bit maybe, just ever so slightly, right? You can't even move at all. It the bone lodges itself and you're inside your skull, and you're stuck. You have to use a BFTP or a totem to get out. And so this was pretty oppressive and led to a lot of draws in 60s because bones just traps all the minions, especially 60 Grassy. But it's not really played that much, but in 60s in general and just in any set really that you use gargoyle and bones, it was pretty oppressive to be trapped like that. And so I think this is a good change overall. Color Spray and Swapperoo swapped places. So Color Spray, as of right now, and I don't have the updated game downloaded quite yet because I'm still looking at replays from the last patch. So I'll update it soon. But Color Spray as of right now is a level 1, and then the old Swapperoo is level 2. So Swapperoo is now going to be level 1, and Color Spray is going to be level 2. I think this is nice because a lot of these utility spells, I think they can afford to be level 1 because it's not really like they're doing any damage. Towers and minions and higher damage spells can be level 2, but I feel like Swapperoo is good, is a good option for level 1, and Color Spray does quite a bit of damage, as you can see, 50 to 110 damage, which brings me to my third change, which is Color Spray is a bolt that does now 60 base damage instead of 50 to 110. I don't know what it caps out as, but now it doesn't do nearly as much damage because 110 is pretty oppressive, especially since it is level 1. Yeah, you have to be in a hole for that to work, but if you happen to be in a hole, you're just lost completely because of a Color Spray hit. So that can be pretty oppressive. So another kind of good quality of life change. I'd give that one an A grade too. So all three so far I'd give good positive scores, and you're going to see that as the theme. A lot of these changes are pretty great. So next one is Leap and Ferocious Strike traded places. Leap level 1, Strike level 2. So as you guys can see here, Strike is level 1 and Leap is level 2. But we swapped those places, mainly because Strike appears to have quite a bit of utility and also knocking potential. 50 damage, has good knockback, knocks people off the first turn. Also can destroy a blood bank in one turn because it does 50 damage. Super easy to deal with those now. So we swapped that spell, Ferocious Strike, to go level 1 or level 2 because it's more heavily used. And Leap is not quite as useful, but you do see it in some ritual mixes, but it doesn't lead to the kind of advantage that Ferocious Strike can lead to in most cases. So I'd give that one an A grade too. Another small Leap quality of life change. Leap will not bounce. Ritual Leap has a 1-turn cooldown instead of no cooldown. So when you leap, after you leap, you bounce a little bit, and that could maybe, potentially shaft someone in a game. So just a small quality of life change there. I think that's a good one. And it also has a 1-turn cooldown instead of no cooldown. Anything with no cooldown can be pretty oppressive unless it's for use. And at that point, Leap was not for use. You could basically use it on I was going to say on cooldown, but there is no cooldown, so you could use it a lot, long story short. So another change to a ritual spell, Ferocious Strike. It has increased knockback or cutout radius. but is not available on the first turn. Now, I'm not sure about the knockback. I think the knockback was probably fine, but we'll have to play with it for a bit. Just because, yeah, I feel like Ferocious Strike had a pretty decent knockback already. But I do like that it's not available on the first turn, because you get these ritual mixes a lot, and honestly, like, to be knocked on the first turn and you're dealt 50 damage and then you teleport in, and ritual books have like some pretty nice damage. They're not necessarily rush books, some of them are, but they have nice damage in Snowball, and so that could be pretty impressive to be down 50 health. By the way, in that game, nice 90 Ice Bomb. I'm just going to swap the game out now to a different one. So yeah, overall I think that change of not being available on turn 1, it was good. Whether it needs the increased knockback or not, I'm not so sure yet. But yeah, I'd probably give that one like a A- or a B+ grade, something like that. Alright, randoms game 2. Oh wait, that's not randoms. Let me go back to, let's do this one. Yeah, okay. This will be a good one. And let's see where we're at here. Cosmic Horror's health reduced to 75 from 100. I think this one is great overall. It reduces the kind of oppressiveness of Cosmic Horror, where they get it out and it basically has to be trapped, otherwise you get Dark Matter Bombed for a huge amount of damage. And you're Graph Pulsed, so you can't flight out of that hole, you have to gate. If you don't have gate, you're screwed. If you don't have tower, you're screwed. So making it 75 makes Cosmic Horror a bit less oppressive, which is good. I think that's a nice change overall. So let's move on. This is another change. Kraken thinks himself superior and will no longer give life for Dark Defenses or Blood Pact. Thank you, Jesus. I don't really experience this that much, but a lot of newbie strats that are being used involve elementals with Kraken and Dark Defense, and man, that's just broken. So fix that one. A grade. Awesome. Dark Defenses can only be cast by your Arcanist or player. This is a good one because what it allows you to do is only you can cast it, meaning a duplication of yourself can't cast it. There's a new map called Ghostly Halls with the duplication arma. What would happen is like little duplications of yourself and of your opponent appear like every other turn, and they take up your minion slots. They could be used to gain health from Dark Defenses, right? And you could use it with the duplicated player and with your player, so you could have multiple Dark Defenses. And so, like, your duplicated player could use the spell at random. Like, you can't control the dupe, but you know they could use the spell at random, and you could have a second Dark Defense and just be super oppressive. And basically, you're lost at that point, right? And the dupes do count as DD like fodder. So if my dupe has 100 health, it'll take away from the dupe's health to, you know, give me some life. But yeah, this just makes it a little bit less oppressive, right? Because now what you can do is basically only have one Dark Defense available to the player. So good one overall. I would say A grade. This next one is kind of interesting. Magical Barrier and Vortex are dispelled by Sanctuary. And it has a little note here that says, more for consistency than for balance. I think this is probably a good change just to make it consistent, like he said. Personal shields and, you know, glyphs and stuff. Like, glyphs are dispelled by Sanctuary, so why shouldn't, like, a little swirl, you know? I don't know what it's necessarily called, like a personal cooldown. So I think that's how it should be, and that's a good change. Let's move on here. Hydrated Trolls will not attack allies. This perk has been removed from Full Seas. So yeah, in Full Seas, you could have a game where your own Hydrated Trolls would attack you, and it would attack opponents too, which is normal that it could attack opponents, but it wasn't normal that it could attack, you know, your own teammates, and yourself too, I think. So this makes that change, and that way, I mean, I think it's intuitive, right? hydrated trolls shouldn't, attack your allies if they're your trolls. So, good change overall. Let's see, what else do we got here? Paladin is heavy and Mantrap-like jump. This is a nice change. Before it was light, right? And I feel like since it's kind of like DK in terms of the style, that's a good one. A grade overall. Mushrooms do not heal double on Werewolf unless they're ritualed. This is also a great one, mainly because the healing in the Book of Wilds is like a huge kind of strategy, or it's like the pillar of the book is the amount of healing that you have, but there's just way too much. And so I think it's good to make it have to be ritualed. And that makes it less oppressive, I think, and a little bit more balanced. So let's see, Abduction can only be used on minions and only has a 2-turn cooldown. This is an interesting one. I think, Abduction can be a bit cheesy, right? So, like if you bring Abduction and BFTP and then abduct someone into a hole, dark matter bomb them, mega them, things like that. So, maybe the idea was to kind of deal with that nerf, or not nerf, deal with that kind of overpowered strategy and nerf it a bit. The 2-turn cooldown, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem too synergistic because not a lot of things have a 2-turn cooldown, but maybe it could work. I have to play with it for a bit. Another thing that you could do, maybe, that might be a little bit more balanced, is make Abduction kind of like Ice Shield, like 4 use and rechargeable, but it's just an idea. So let's see here. Blood Clot will not latch onto friendly units. This is great because Blood Clot was pretty much an RNG fest. It would latch onto everything. If you guys haven't seen my tournament video from last tournament where I got Blood Clot by Miley for like 300 plus health, then check that out. You can see how kind of random it is. But yeah, I think that's a good change overall. Another change here, it looks like Disruption Shards have reduced range, which makes it more confined. Disruption is just dog doo-doo, so I'm really glad that they got a change, a quality of life change to that spell, because it just like is way too spread out in the way that the projectiles aim, and it doesn't trap the opponent like 75% of the time. And then 10% of the time it does like 60 or 70 damage and does what the spell should do. Because it's only 2 use, right? So, that's a great change. Summoning a level 3 dragon while holding Alt will make you auto-mount. You cannot already be mounted. This is good. This is good overall. I think that a lot of games have been lost because, oh, I'm just going to summon the dragon super close to me, and what the heck, I'm not mounted. And that can lose games. And it has lost games. It lost me games, lost Valor games, lost Nicaray games, I'm sure. Seer, Cryo, Falcos, everyone, DX. We've all lost games because of stupid auto-mount mechanics, right? That don't quite work right. So, I think this is a good change. It makes it a little bit easier. Again, a quality of life change there. And that way you can guarantee, okay, I'm going to have this extra buffer of health, and maybe give me a chance to stay in the game, or in this case, could win because of that summon. So a good kind of consistent mechanic to add to the game for sure. Just a few more here. Ocean Floor Armageddon does not target the player. Clams increase every 10 turns. Brine only comes every 5th turn. Clams used to target the player. Pretty rough Arma, honestly. Not that great. So I think this is a good quality of life change. I've been saying that a lot, but changing this Arma up is a good idea. Alien World Arma produces double the amount of shooting stars. I think this is a good change as well, because there's a lot of land in Alien World, and we need to be able to just have some of that land be destroyed, right? And let's see, I had a third game, but I may have chose the wrong one. Let me just pick some random one, I guess. Let's see. 5.9. Sure, we'll watch this one. So, yeah, let's see. Alien World Arma, yeah, it's just a buff to like deal with the amount of land that there is on Alien World. The Arma doesn't clear enough of it, and so that's why the change was made. I think it's a good one. And let's see here. Directional aerials are always controllable in the random spells game mode. Still not in standard 10s. This is kind of interesting. I don't know the exact rationale for it, but I think that it sounds like a lot of random spells players were kind of complaining about the lack of directional aerials, and they all kind of got used to it. Also, what you can do is just set the clock to 11 seconds in your casino games, and that way they can have directional aerials. So if there's such an easy cheat and workaround to the aerials, change, then why not just revert it back to 10 seconds? And Pure probably thought the same thing, so he decided, we're just going to make that change, revert it back. So still not in standard 10s. I feel like, I don't know, like aerial books are still oppressive in standard 10s, especially on grassy, so they didn't want to make that change. You could bring like Rain of Arrows, Comet, Deluge. Deluge isn't directional, but you get the idea. Pressure your opponent with Ray and Deluge. They have to teleport. You Rain of Arrows them. You know what side it's going to come from. They're going to die, right? So I think that's a good change, and also it prevents casino players from doing stupid shit like setting it to 11 seconds and being like, I gotta get my directional aerials, So anyway, another change here. Devil's Snare only lasts 4 turns but deals 30 damage. Before it lasted 5 turns and did 25 damage. 30 damage doesn't really make a difference. I don't know if there's many 30 damage or 30 health minions. In fact, are there any 30 health minions? Not that I can think of. Monarchs are 40, Drone is 40. Yeah. Swarm is 25, Spirit's 25, so I think the damage is kind of negligible, and lasting 4 turns is good, makes it a little bit less oppressive. Because, yeah, when your opponent has a snare down, like, you're not really approaching at all, and the 5 turns is a long time. Oh, that's funny, you missed the clock there, that's unfortunate. So, yeah, I think this is a good change overall. Random spells ritual can only be got if you have also got a wild spell. Well, this makes a lot of sense. Ritual is a completely dead slot. If you get it in random spells, you don't have a wild spell, you can't ritual anything. So what's the point? It's just like you're having 15 spells. So perfectly good change. Last 3 changes are some of the bigger ones. This one I think is one of the more controversial. Swarm is limited to 2 at a time instead of 1. So the meta in the last few weeks or months, I guess, has been trending toward rush books. You see these ritual infection mixes, ritual mixes, comet infection mixes, comet blood infection mixes, all this stuff, right? A lot of those no flight kind of rush styles, and it kind of counteracts the flight protection shield, like, storm shield, generic whittle your opponent down with swarms and shields, over the course of 5,000 turns type of gameplay. And so this is, I think, in an effort to kind of bring some energy back to those more stally defensive books and make them a bit more viable again, because as of now, a lot of the no flight books can be pretty oppressive and just difficult to deal with. Like, in order to deal with some no flight books on certain maps, you pretty much need to be like a 2Ker, need to not make any mistakes, play pretty much perfectly, and then you might up your chances to like 30 or 40% instead of 10. So, yeah. I think that's a good change overall, but also one that I'm a little unsure about. I have to play around with it. I also like the stall style a bit more. I'm not someone who really did a lot of no-flight gameplay or rush style, so maybe this will benefit me too as someone who likes that sort of those types of books. So yeah, spear limited to 2. Spear throw damage is based off distance traveled, 25 to 75 damage in short to medium range. Now, this was something that was pulled in our poll a few months ago because people thought that spear was pretty oppressive, and initially you could stuff it, and then there was an update made so that you couldn't stuff it, and now there's an update made so that it does 25 to 75 damage. I don't think I voted for this. I feel like spear is okay, honestly. especially since we're buffing some stall books with the swarm change. Um, and I'm not sure if it's too necessary, but I can see why people would want it nerfed, because it's just a 75 damage to the face. It's available like turn 2 or 3. So yeah, it can be pretty oppressive. Whether it's that necessary, I don't know. And wow, this is a super close game. I didn't expect that. But oh yeah, Tiger clutches that win with 2 health. That's a pretty sweet one to stumble on. And I won't go to another game here. There's just one left. That last change is Infection is now an arrow instead of targeted. Super interesting change. I'm not 100% sure how much it's going to nerf those infect books. Obviously, you can't point and click. I get that. Pointing and clicking is kind of brain dead. So maybe someone like Valor will be happy with this. But I think a lot of people will appreciate this change. Some people who maybe have used Bloodfrost a lot, used infection mixes, are not going to appreciate this change. But I would give it some time, play around. Maybe you take a different level 3 instead of infection. Maybe you just take Vampire, right? Vampire is still super strong. No nerfs or buffs in this last patch. So maybe it'll just require a little bit of creativity, a little bit of, moving some spells around. And I think it could work. My other idea was like, oh, maybe you could just nerf the damage of infection a little bit, or reduce the amount of time that your player is infected by 1 turn or something like that. That could also be an idea if this now an arrow spell is just way too much of a nerf and no one uses the spell anymore. But also on certain maps where you just can't get to the player, infect is just not even useful at all. Maybe on a map like Grassy, which is a bit more open, it could work, or Kano, maps like that. But yeah, so that's the last kind of big change that was made, the infection now being an arrow spell. I think it overall, like from a game mechanic standpoint, it's a good change. It makes it less like point and click, brain dead sort of gameplay, where you don't really use any skill. You just have a spell that's able to do a bunch of damage by just clicking your mouse. So anyway, wanted to just give you guys a quick summary of all the changes. And this is, by the way, version 6.0. And if you guys enjoyed this video and the explanation of all these changes, leave a like, comment, subscribe. I would really appreciate it. On the road to 200 subscribers, so maybe I can get to 1,000 one day, get that partnership, and start, making some, maybe a little bit of that cheddar. You know what I mean? Obviously, I don't really need money, but man, that would be super cool to grow the game and like have this YouTube channel just like blow up because I'm so awesome and everything. You know how it is. Anyway, have a good day. See you guys in the next video. Peace out.